So this month, we've learned everything about grace. It has been an amazing walk through the weeks and the days. So Reverend Laura has talked about all aspects of it. And now that we know it all, let's start practicing it, actually practicing it. So let's begin with a bit of contemplation. You don't have to close your eyes. Just sort of lower your gaze and just go within just for a brief, very brief moment and ask yourself these questions. Is there any power apart from God? What do you believe? Is there any power apart from God? Is there any power which God has to contend with? Is there any power that God must overcome? So the conclusion that I hope you arrived at is that God is supreme, that God is all there is, that there is one power, and that power is God, that power is infinite. Besides God, there's no law. Besides God, there's no life. Besides God, there's no love. And above all else, when we come to these realizations, we come into the realm of grace. So when you actually immerse yourself in this, we enter the realm of grace. So what does that look like? How do we live immersed in this grace? One of the main ways to do it is through our acts of service. It can be a smile. It can be a dozen roses that you break apart and give one to the clerk in the post office, one to one of your friends, one to your bartender. Just give, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Saying a prayer in traffic. Saying a prayer in traffic, seeing that every driver is God in expression. That's what being in this realm looks like. So there was a motorcycle gang that hung out in this small town. One night, they were hanging out, having a good time, and this little 5-year-old girl walks in, and she goes up to the biggest, baddest, most heavily tattooed one in the group. And she says, "My mommy needs help." She's locked in the basement by her husband, who is a trusted city official. She helped me climb out the window and told me where to find you. So he put his computer nerd on the computer, and the person who was good with kids in the group, they got together and they asked her all kinds of questions. They began to use GPS coordinates. They located the house, discovered who the owner was, traced his location, his current location, and then they jumped on their Harleys and they rescued the mother and the small brother. The story continues, has a happy ending, and there's one person, of course, that has to do some recovery work. Yes, we are all the hands and feet of the Almighty. Sometimes cracks come through and grace pours in. So if you heard Judy's this morning, she talked about cracks allowing grace to pour into your life. So there's no judgment. Hell's angels can be filled with grace. They can serve the Almighty. So in every moment, live consciously in the realm of grace. We act. So how do we get back to it? Do we always stay in this realm? Well, sometimes not. But we get back through it through our service, through our love for each other. And we can remain there longer and longer the more often we consciously go to it. We are God's hands and feet. We serve without ceremony. We are eternally surrounded by, immersed in this awesome realm of grace. This power is ours because we are heirs to the divine. We are heirs to the divine. So how does it look? We do not battle people. We rest as we learn to commune with God. We relax into the presence and we contemplate spirit. And slowly we begin to live more and more in grace. Especially when we rise above the material. When we stop believing in two powers, health and disease. When we stop believing in sin and purity. When we stop believing in discord and harmony. Then we can embrace and live in oneness. There is only one, and I am one with the one. I am God personified, created in the image and likeness, heir to the kingdom, and the kingdom is within me. The kingdom is within each of us to the same degree. It's in each of us. I, in the midst of you, am the presence that goes before you to make the crooked places straight. The battle is not ours, but God's, because God is. How do we get into that realm? Joel Goldsmith reminds us that the power of God is a spiritual grace, caring spiritually for God's children. It is our task to rest in God's grace. To rest in God's grace. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that wonderful to feel this? You know, it's not running around. It's just resting in this presence. So I haven't shared any stories recently from the history that I do here in Las Vegas. So most of you know that I talk a lot, learn a lot, research a lot about the African American community here in Las Vegas. So I'm going to share a story about the first Black attorney in Nevada. His name is Charles Keller. In 1959, when Thurgood Marshall worked at the NAACP in New York, his goal was to have at least one Black attorney in every state. Nevada was one of the many states that did not have a Black attorney. So Thurgood Marshall asked his good friend, a seasoned civil rights attorney in New York, to move to Las Vegas. Big ask. So finally he agreed, and he began to dispose of all of his property, his real estate in New York. Disposed of all of it, came to Nevada with a kind of a large cashier's check. So eventually, he went into a bank to start a bank account. Asked him to wait for a while, and while he was waiting, he just began to notice police officers coming into the bank. So the police officers finally said to him, "No person of color should have this kind of money." So Charles Keller laughed. Eventually, the situation was solved, and they started his bank account. 1959. So 1960, Charles Keller goes to Carson City to sit for the bar exam. When it's time for the results of the bar exam, he doesn't get any scores. So he gets in touch with the department, and they told him that his score was so high, they thought he had cheated. So he took the state of Nevada to court, off and on for 5 years before they granted him his law license. So probably a little revenge after that, but Charles Keller went on to fight for equal housing. He won the case for school desegregation. He was in the forefront of all kinds of other really wonderful achievements for people of color in Nevada, not just in the South here in Las Vegas, but in Reno as well. So he was not as humbled maybe as we're supposed to be, but he could bring these cases and do it free of charge because he had acquired wealth. He was well educated. He was courageous. He used all of his assets to help to bring equity and living spaces for everybody in the state of Nevada. So God's grace is ever with us. We need not seek it. We don't have to strive for it. We don't have to earn it. We don't even have to deserve it. But it is right where we are right now. So let us rest in the everlasting arms, in the assurance that there is only one law, and it's God's law. Saying a prayer is one of the ways of resting in God's grace. Meditation is a way of communing and resting in the grace of the Spirit. Sometimes just becoming aware of God's love and allowing it to flow into grace. That's as difficult as it gets. Cheryl Richardson wrote a book called The Unthinkable Touch of Grace. She defines grace as a kind of spiritual intelligence, a form of energy that comes from the divine source. This energy is available to each one of us at every moment. We are to connect with it, trust in this higher power, and follow its lead. Grace allows us to step in alignment with the larger vision of our lives. So let me remind you again of how it looks. Know that God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. Now, I didn't know exactly. It's one of my favorite things to say. But I never took it apart. Sufficiency. It's an easy word, but I don't think about it like that. Our sufficiency, according to AI is getting better and better, is experiencing a plentiful, limitless supply of God's grace and provision. So sufficiency, described by AI, experiencing a plentiful, limitless supply of God's grace and provision. The only power is within us, and it is the grace of God. It knows our needs before we do. It is its good pleasure to give us the kingdom. I want to finish by reading a story. So in the past 4 years, doing Rebel Ready Week at UNLV, I get to read a story to the new freshmen coming onto campus. Now, you might not think that would be a big deal. I didn't either. We have these books that we read together, and it's called Common Reads. And I usually read a story to them out of our Common Reads book. We have learned that they loved to be read to. Who knew? Freshmen, they're away from home for the first time, and they just enjoy hearing somebody read a story to them. So you don't have to be an attorney or a hell's angel to do the acts that bring grace into the world. So I'm going to read a story to you. My name is James. I'm 68 years of age, retired from the factory floor after 42 years. Every Saturday since, I sit at Hank's Diner. Same booth, same black coffee, same view of the street. It's my little ritual. Nothing fancy, just me, my crossword puzzle, and the smell of bacon. Not the taste, the smell of bacon. That's how I noticed Doris. She'd sit alone at table 3 every single Saturday. Thin as a rail, silver hair pulled back tight. Always ordered the cheapest thing, plain oatmeal. Sometimes she'd count her coins twice before sliding them across the counter. Hank's a good guy, but busy. He'd just nod, never ask why she lingered so long after eating, just sat there, like the diner was her only warm place. One rainy November morning, I saw her wipe her eyes with a napkin, quietly, like she didn't want anyone to see. My chest hurt. I remembered my mom when my dad left, that same look, like the world forgot you existed. I didn't plan anything. Just when Betty, the waitress, came by and brought my coffee, I said, real casually, put another one on my tab for the lady at table 3. Betty blinked. You sure, James? I shrugged. Seems like she could use a hot drink. Doris looked stunned when Betty put the coffee down. She stared at it like it might vanish. Then she looked at me, just a quick glance. She smiled, a real smile, but tiny, but it lit up her whole face, like sunshine through clouds. I kept doing it every Saturday. Another coffee for table 3, I'd say. Never made a big deal. Doris started smiling at me. Sometimes she'd leave a little doodle on her napkin, a flower or a bird. Once she slid a wrapped butterscotch candy in my booth. "For you," she whispered. Her voice was soft, like rustling paper. Then something shifted. Doris started helping Betty, cleaning empty tables, refilling water glasses for folks. She didn't ask, she just did. One icy day, I saw her wrap her own scarf around a young mother's shivering child. The mom looked shocked, teary. "Thank you, ma'am," she mumbled. Doris just petted her hand and said, "We look after each other around here." Folks in town started to notice Doris too. Old Mr. Peterson from the hardware store began leaving his daily gazette at her table. Teenagers stopped ignoring her. They'd say, "Good morning, Doris," like she mattered, and she did. Last month, I got pneumonia, bad. Couldn't leave my bed for 2 weeks. First Saturday that I was home, I missed Hanks. I missed Doris. I felt like part of me was missing. Monday morning, there was a knock. Betty stood there with a paper bag. Inside, 2 coffees, still hot, a slice of cherry pie, and a note from table 3. "You rest good," with a little heart drawn. That afternoon, Hank called. "James," he said, his voice thick. Now, this could only happen in a tiny town. "You should have seen table 3 today. Doris brought in a whole pot of coffee she brewed at home, filled cups for everyone who walked in. Even old grumpy Frank from the post office, she kept saying, 'James would want this.'" I cried then, real tears, not because I was sick, because I finally understood. Grace is not about big projects. It's just seeing someone, really seeing them, and giving them what you can, even if it's only a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning. Doris isn't rich, and neither am I. That coffee didn't cost much. It was just a little attention. It was, "I see you." Now half the town pays it forward, just 'cause it feels right. Funny, huh? How the smallest thing, a hot drink, a doodle on a napkin, can warm more than your hands. It warms the whole room, or it warms half the town. You don't need a fancy plan to make the world softer. You just need to notice who's sitting alone and then just pass the sugar. This was from Facebook, and it was written by Grace Jenkins. So let us become beholders and watch God's grace flow as we withdraw from the battles, from the struggles to overcome, and just rest and behold. So let us pray. Am I praying? I'm praying. That's not what we planned. So let us pray. So the grace of the Father is ours. God is grace. God is. This almighty power is grace. We are created in the image and likeness of this presence. This means that we are grace in the image and likeness of the Creator of the universe. This is a prayer of thanksgiving. I am just so grateful. I am so grateful for every kernel of grace within me. I am so grateful for this world that we live in. I'm so grateful for friends and family and the congregation at this center. I am so grateful to be in classes where I learn. I am so grateful to be spiraling up. That's the way the power works. It allows us to spiral up. I'm so grateful for it right now. And all this gratitude, I just release into the law of the universe. The one law, God's law, I release it now. And so it is.